Hello everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today I want to share with you the second lesson for the course of Gnosis. So today we are going to talk about consciousness and the ego according to the Gnosis. So let's get started. So first of all, it's important to know how the Gnosis sees the psychology and consciousness. What is the structure of the consciousness or human consciousness according to the Gnosis? How do we see the self-identity, the consciousness? How ego is created, and what is the Gnostic solution to all these matters? So first of all, the human consciousness structure, according to the Gnosis, we have what we could call the three brains, and it's basically the conscious, the subconscious, and the infraconscious, which most people refer to this as the different parts of the mind. So it's a way to see it, but the Gnosis divides the consciousness in this way, not so much the mind. The mind, according to the Gnosis, is the place where the thoughts are projected, so it's a different concept basically. So the conscious mind, or the conscious part of our own psychology, is that which we know so that is the logic, the reason, is what people will call the neocortex, the human brain. So this is the part where we have all the abstract thoughts, the language, sensory perception, imagination, social harmony, human culture, learning abilities. So this is including also memory, is the things that we have in the top of our mind that we always remember. Like we don't need to make a big effort to remember. So this is the kind of things that this is how we function, and is the probably the highest part of the mind. This is what allows us to have some kind of let's say educated, civilized behavior in society. And then we have the subconscious, which is called also the mammalian brain, is where we have some broader awareness, and we have the concept of family, value judgment, long-term memory. This is where we are dealing with feelings, emotions, love, empathy, caring about family, and this is a part that is subconscious, because we react in a way without knowing exactly why we do it. Typically, women are more, let's say, ruled by emotions compared to male. So this is also some kind of tendency is biological. So this is the way we function as humans. But everyone is ruled by emotions and feelings, more or less, depending on each person. So this is something that we need to pay attention to, because it's below the level of our consciousness, and sometimes we're not aware of why we do certain things, or why we feel in a certain way, or why we're doing things in a certain way, and we are not even aware sometimes of our own emotions. So this is also important. And then the infraconscious, or what is called the reptilian brain, is all the part that we don't know much about. What we call, as a whole, we call it instinct, and this part is ruling a lot of functions of our body and of our life. So this is probably the biggest part of our consciousness, which is from the point of view of gnosis. This is a problem. So we want to make the subconscious and the unconscious or infraconscious. We want to make it conscious. So we want to regain consciousness of our entire consciousness. And the reptilian brain is basically the primitive part of the brain, is associated with basic functions such as survival. The instinct for feeding, fighting, fleeing is associated with sex and reproduction. Some involuntary functions like breathing, heart rate, body temperature, balance, and of course is associated with more basic emotions such as panic, fear, self-preservation, instinctive reactions, things that we can really not control. That is absolutely a reaction that we sometimes don't expect, but it has to be fast because all of these let's say instincts are associated with survival, so that's why. But also this kind of survival tends to have a negative effect in our lives, so we tend to do some self-sabotage, hold ourselves back. We are risk averse, we are fearing of the opinion of others, we have the fear of loss, fear of missing out. All of these fears are really rooted in the reptilian brain because it's somehow protecting us from risk. This is the main thing. The reptilian brain avoids risk because the less risk there is, that means there is the higher chance of survival. And sometimes we feel powerless because there's nothing we can do to control all of these reactions. And we have also the inability to learn from mistakes, so we continue to do the same thing over and over. There's the sense of territoriality, xenophobia, aggression, nationalism, tribalism, which is very important in our society. This is the sensation that you feel safer in a group. And this is of course sometimes negative because you're incapable or feel incapable of doing something on your own. You need to have the support of others, and while this is okay socially, sometimes it's not practical for different circumstances that each person can have. So we find in this brain also the defensiveness, retaliation, revenge, and we have the tendency to observe rituals. This is also associated with the reptilian brain, and we tend to classify people. This is instinctive. We don't control it. Usually, we classify people as foe, friend, food, or as a sexual partner. This is immediately is beyond the control of most people, and sometimes we're completely unaware of this. And it's almost immediate. Is the fastest of the parts of the mind, if we want to call it like this. And here we also find the instinct to fight, protect things or people that are dear to us, such as family or partner, home, land, country, or even a group that reflects our social identity. So that's why a lot of people have very strong reactions around their social identity or groups that reflect it. So this is in general how Gnosis sees the structure of the mind, of the structure of the human consciousness, and somehow is consistent with psychology, with very few exceptions. And coming to Gnosis, how we see this structure. From the point of view of Gnosis, we have our consciousness, and our consciousness should be 100% free. But instead of that, we have the situation where the consciousness is divided, is basically fractured. So this fracture of the consciousness creates a problem because we don't have 100% free. Our consciousness is inside little bottles, if you want to see it like that. It's a good way to conceptualize it. So this fracture is what makes our identity. So the sum of all these bottles is what makes us who we are, is what makes us how we behave in society. And this sometimes can be a problem because, of course, everyone is different. Like each of us has a different, let's say, we fracture our own consciousness in a different way because we had different experiences and we have different reactions. So, because of this, we decided to put different parts of our consciousness in different bottles to see it in a different way. So, because of this, we have the multiplicity of the ego. So, ego is this part of the consciousness that is inside the bottle. That's what we call ego in the Gnosis. And this is going to cause inner contradictions because I think everyone can attest to the fact that sometimes we cannot even convince ourselves to do something that is in our best interest. So let's say something very simple. We have the example, we want to lose weight. So we know that to lose weight, we need to maybe exercise and maybe eat less or eat more healthy. And it seems like a very simple formula. However, we start to struggle, and this struggle, this contradiction comes from the multiplicity of the ego. So we have different desires, and we have some fears, we have some insecurities, even sometimes some trauma. So we feel some anxiety, and then as a reaction to this anxiety, we feel insecure, and then we want to eat. Even though we have our own goal that we want to lose weight, we start to eat without control. We eat more than we should. So we self-sabotage our own goals. And then this is some kind of puzzle. It's like maybe very surprising for ourselves. We sometimes wonder, why cannot I accomplish what I want? I know what I want. Why am I sabotaging my own goals? It's like there was someone else inside of me, and each of them wants different things. One of them just wants to eat, one of them just wants to have sex, one of them just wants to watch TV all day, one of them wants to do different things. So this is a complete multiplicity of the ego, and this creates a problem because we're unable to achieve the higher goals that we set for ourselves, and sometimes even smaller goals we're completely incapable of doing them, or is really really hard, and we need to use a lot of self-discipline and maybe some willpower. But the willpower is sometimes only temporary, so it's really a contradiction of every human. This is what the Gnosis sees as a big problem. And because of this, we experience different emotions during the day, so we're not stable. We are not always happy. Sometimes we wake up and we're happy. As the day goes, we feel maybe angry, maybe not so happy, maybe start to feel depressed, and in the night we're crying, we're sad. So it is different emotions go through our consciousness, and sometimes we cannot explain it. And some people say, oh, it's maybe the hormones, or it's maybe the moon, or something like this. And while this is completely true, it's proven that the moon, for example, has some influence over the brain. It shouldn't be so hard, the influence of gravity of the moon on the brain, because the brain has a high percentage of water. It's proven that actually the moon has some influence, but this alone doesn't explain all the swings that we experience in our lives. And hormones also, they play an important role, but they don't explain everything. Sometimes you are like, okay, so why am I feeling like this? Why am I doing this? Why cannot I do that? So all of this is explained from the point of view of the gnosis through the ego, because we have encapsulated our consciousness inside of different bottles, and inside of each of these bottles there is a small little boss, and he wants to do what he wants, and he doesn't care about everyone else. It's like he wants to run the show, and he wants to say what needs to be done, and he stays in the consciousness of our humanity for some time, and then later lets go, and someone else comes and starts to direct our human body and starts to do different things. So takes care of all our centers, takes over, and starts to do whatever he wants, even if it is destructive, and for our body, for our mind, for our emotions. So this is why we see all these contradictions, and being able to see this in ourselves sometimes helps us to understand how others behave, or why others behave in this way. And also the ego, it is associated with memory, and the memory is very important for the ego, because sometimes because of this association with the ego is that we are unable to change, we're unable to let go, we're unable to change in a positive way, improve or anything. And this thing actually, this situation tends to become worse and worse as let's say our evolution or our development as humans goes. Remember the past conference where we were talking about the human experience, human life. So we have 108 lives. So each time we come again to live again as humans is more complicated. The first time we come, we have our clear consciousness, and we start to become more and more and more complicated, more and more complex. So we have more and more problems. This is following the law of entropy. So each time that we come to life is worse and worse. It's never better. Because remember, this is a mechanical process. So if we don't do anything to stop it, it will follow the course of the natural course of events, which is becoming worse and worse every time. And this, of course, causes some pain and suffering, of course. So how is the ego created in the first place? So what happens is we have our consciousness, we have our senses, we have our body, we have every perception that we have. So we will experience something in our life. Usually can be in relation to others, but can be also when we are alone, because we live in a universe that is material. So we have a material experience, and we will have a reaction to each experience. And sometimes this reaction is an inadequate reaction to this experience. So let's say that naturally a river will flow smoothly without interruption, but each time we have a negative reaction to a particular experience, life experience, it's like we put a rock inside the river. So now the river will start to wander, and it will move in a different path, and it will not be smoothly how it moves. So this is some kind of analogy of how actually the flow of life is interrupted by our reaction, and this reaction is caused by some emotion. And like I say, it is we have this experience, and during the experience we have certain emotions, certain sensations, and then we have the reaction. So this reaction is usually associated with all the things that happen during this experience. So we commit all of these together, and we kind of freeze it into a program, and then we put it inside the bottle. But inside the bottle is not only all these programs, but it's also a part of our own consciousness is trapped inside this bottle, and every time the same circumstances come, then the program is called. It's actually like a computer. Yes, exactly like a computer. Under certain conditions, we will trigger the same program. So every time we see a cat, because the first cat that we saw actually had a, I don't know, he was chasing us, or he was trying to bite us or something. Then every time we see a cat, we will fear the cat, and even if it is, of course, a different cat, the same program will come again, because our consciousness is inside of this, and then the program will start to run again, and then we will have the same reaction, the same emotions, the same sensations, even if the experience that we have in front of us is not the same, is not in any way equal. We will experience exactly the same emotions, the same feelings, the same sensations. So this is why the ego is formed, or how the ego is formed according to the Gnosis. And what is the solution to all this? Okay, so the solution, of course, is to start first to do some kind of inventory of our own selves. So we're going to do some observation. So we need to develop the self-awareness, and it is useful if you want to start a diary or a journal. You can do it online. There are some different tools that you can use to do a diary or a journal online. And this has the advantage that maybe you can set up some passwords so no one else can see what you're writing. It's just a suggestion. You can do whatever you want. You can use pen and paper, pencil, whatever works best for you. So the main idea is to do some analysis, some retrospection, and how are we going to do this? So there is a practice. The first practice that I'm going to recommend is this thing that is called subject, object, place. So in every circumstance, the main thing is to avoid identification. Identification means I am going to avoid letting the program run uncontrolled. So whenever I see a new experience, I will try to stop the program, like don't let the program run, and we're going to become aware of who we are, try to see ourselves, become aware of our own self, become aware of our emotions, our thoughts, our sensations, feelings, and we're going to become aware of where we are now, physically where we are, and this will help us to stop the program from running. This is not a perfect solution, but it's something that you can start doing immediately. Later in following sessions, I'm going to provide some more advanced solutions, but this is actually something that you can do every day. Is something that will help us awake our consciousness, because we have our consciousness that is free. So let's say we have 100% of our consciousness, then we started to put parts of our consciousness in different bottles, and at the end of some lives we have maybe 10% left of our consciousness, but we're all the time just running on the programs, and our consciousness is somehow asleep. We're sleeping all the time, just letting the programs run, some kind of a computer. We just sleep like robots. We go through life just reacting mechanically to everything that comes. So this practice is aimed at awakening the consciousness that we have, and avoid running all these programs automatically every time we see a specific situation. Is absolutely imperfect. I have to clear this up. You will not change anything radically in your life, but you will definitely see some changes. Sometimes these changes are very surprising, and you can even have some interesting experiences where you suddenly feel surprised at your own life, and this is probably something that you will never experience before, or you never experience in the future again. because we just run through life mechanically without ever stopping. So even doing this very simple practice consistently will maybe create a big change in our life, even though from the point of view of the Gnosis this is a basic change. As compared to how we live our lives is sometimes enormous. It will make an enormous difference in your life, and you will see it how radical the change can become. So that's all I wanted to say. Is very interesting lesson, and we will continue to progress to different topics. Let me know what you think about it, and I want to remind you again about the opportunity to help me support my work as content creator. In the description of each episode, I provide information about different platforms you can use to support me with donations. If you want to, you can support me also by liking, sharing this episode in social media, and subscribing. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.